Today, I thought we'll start the session by saying a namaste. Not just saying, I also want to do it. May I request all the participants to switch on their cameras? I'd love to have a view of them. All the participants, may I request all of you to switch on your cameras? Yes, and let's do the namaste posture today. Not just say it, but also do it. And I'll tell you why I want all of you to do this. So you see, these are the pressure points that we have. When you bring your palms together, ensure that these pressure points are pressed and your fingertips also press against each other. Feel your pulse over there. All of you, can you feel your pulse over there? Yes, so this is the posture of Namaste. And what does it do? See, first it unites the left and the right brain hemisphere and brings harmony. I think we all in life are, working towards achieving that. This little posture, if practiced every day for 3 to 5 minutes, brings harmony. And even if you can't practice it at a stretch, I think let us start greeting people with namaste. So during the whole day, you will be able to achieve your target of 3 to 5 minutes. So this is the posture which unites the left and the right brain and brings in harmony. It is a way of saying, I bow down to the divine in you. The namaste is a posture which tells that I am actually bowing down to the divine energy in you. It also reduces anxiety, stress, depression, heart problems, and breathing problems. Also reduces physical pains like headache, neck pain, stomach pain, and migraine. So when we say namaste, see, we are actually even bringing good health to ourselves. And during this online process where everything is online, I think we have a lot of physical pain. So if you want to get rid of the physical pain, the best way is to have this posture. Namaste. I hope, Nikhil, you've taken the screenshot. I really want this for my page. I still can see some people without that pose. May I request all of you to put your hands together? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so now I begin by introducing the speakers to you. For today, we have Vishnu, we have Agnes, we have Pooja. So, what is Vishnu to me? So today, I've known Vishnu for many years. So what I'm doing today is I'm not reading out something what his qualifications are and all that. For me, I understand Vishnu as a hungry learner, one who's never tired of reading, loves sharing his understanding. So people read and some people only keep the understanding to themselves, but Vishnu is one person who will love to share his understanding with the world. He has many questions and he loves people who have many questions. He loves to improve his own understanding by the questions that people ask. He loves analyzing his own work and is open to debate and discussions. You may even criticize him, but you will never find him frowning. And that's what makes him a true learner. A very warm welcome to you, Vishnu. The next on the panel is Agnes. Now, even I've known her for the past some years. She is a reflective learner. When we start thinking that we have thrashed it all and we have found our solution, she will be the last person to come up with the most soothing question. And it's like, oh God, so we thought we had answered it all, but no, we have to start afresh. So actually, she keeps the team moving and gives a lot of work to Vishnu to think because he loves questions. Coming to Pooja, for me, I've known her also for some time now. I call her a meticulous learner. And why I call her a meticulous learner is because what she does to her own learnings, she breaks them into smaller fragments, tries to understand it on her own, organizes it, and then assimilates it. So for me, she's a very meticulous learner, very organized. She heads the high range school in Munnar. A very warm welcome to you, Pooja and Agnes. Thank you for being on the panel today. And I am Rajni. I would put myself as an experiential learner. I believe in doing and then learning while the journey is on. I look at it, I look at my entire journey, whatever experience I am into, what I could achieve, what I could not achieve, what can I do better next time. That's how my journey has moved on. And I'm really very happy the way I have learned and I have moved. I am always looking out for people who can, add to my learning. And so I'm very happy to have Vishnu, Agnes, and Pooja in my team where I keep learning from all three of them. So I'd like to begin my first question, Pooja, with you. NEP talks about continuation of three-language formula. Could you please elaborate a little on it?
Yeah, thank you, Rajni ma'am. In fact, the very subject of language and the offshoot of language, bifurcating it to mother tongue and second language and third language, has taken us back in time to the year 1964-66, when the three-language formula was actually recommended by the Education Commission. And it was adopted by the Parliament in 1968. And this formula was very simple. It said that Hindi, English, and a modern Indian language, preferably one of the southern languages in the Hindi-speaking areas, and Hindi, English, and a regional language in the non-Hindi speaking areas should be adopted by the school or by the educational institutions. Now, currently, as we had expected that all the schools and institutions would welcome this, because the idea behind this was to bind the entire nation into one thread of a common language. However, between the spirit and the implementation, there's a wide gap. So this three-language formula was adopted by our schools, but with a pinch of salt. For example, Tamil Nadu refused to adopt this formula in totality. Then in 1986, the new policy of education on education reiterated the 1968 formula and felt that it should be again implemented across the country. However, again, it was not implemented effectively all over the country, as we see around us. Different states tend to interpret this formula in a different way, and as a result, its implementation has been highly uneven. As you know that in our country, the schools are also different. We have the state board schools, we have the public schools, we have the private schools, we have the international schools. So obviously their vision, their outlook towards this formula was as per to suit their own area of interest. Consequently, the intent with which the three-language formula was formulated, that is, which was to establish it across the country, has been lost in its way. And people have little interest in Hindi because of economic reasons, or the regional language because of economic reasons. Thus, the challenge of providing multilingual education manner still remains a dream. And it is well established that students' academic competency will become better in the regional and first language as per the dictates of the three-language formula, but currently we do not see this much in practice. So we can easily conclude that the intent with which the three-language formula was formulated, which was to establish a link, is still a dream. And now the national education policy also, as we all know, welcomes and is in sync with the three-language formula. But let us see how it provides us the ecosystem to implement it in our schools. One thing is very, very clear, that if the curriculum or the content to be taught is not in consonance with the child's environment and culture, the whole point of establishing or imparting education in the mother tongue will be completely useless. That's my point of view about the three-language formula and its, its synchronization with the national education policy.
Thank you, Pooja. So while we were all working on this understanding of language, I found something very interesting, which I would like to read out. It says nothing to do with the three-language formula. It's just about language. I found it very interesting. So I thought I'll share. Language learning depends on the processing of sounds. And can you guess how many sounds are there in the language? It says there are about 800 sounds in all the world's languages. And each language uses only about 40 language sounds, which distinguishes one language from another. At birth, the baby brain has an unusual gift. It can tell the difference between all 800 sounds. This means that at this stage, infants can learn any language that they are exposed to. So we are talking about a 3-language formula, but I think if the mothers, if they equip themselves with more than one language, I think our children will really do wonders. So with this, I would like to come to a poll which says economy rewards English speaking. Nikhil, I'll request you to launch the poll.
So, one of the things that the national education policy has been pushing for, and over the last two policies, I think, the push has been to use mother tongue as a medium of instruction. And as school heads, as teachers, a lot of the times, this is the basic question that we have for ourselves. That okay, fine, you want us to teach in the mother tongue. Somehow, as teachers, we'll still learn it and we'll go ahead and teach. But parents don't want that. So, what do we do? And when we were going through the policy and we were looking at these varied and various documents, we realized that the real issue lies in the fact that the larger reforms still have to happen. When economically speaking, the opportunities that are available are more connected with English or more connected with the 22 official languages only, the regional recognized languages, then how do we expect the schools to go ahead and teach only with the mother tongue? The child will be at a disadvantage. That's the concern that everyone has. So, the larger reform that has to come into play is that at the level of economic opportunities, those kind of opportunities be available where different languages are allowed, okay, in different kind of job streams, and they are valued, they get recognition, they get remuneration also accordingly, the way English is valued so much at this point of time. So that's why we thought we will put up this as a poll to see, okay, that's where we are, and that still remains a question and a larger recommendation probably that we have from our side also.
So, Angie, I would also like you to answer this question that NEP 2020 talks about helping children acquire foundational literacy. Can you elaborate a little on it?
Yeah, I think I'm going to use another poll for that. Are you guys interested in answering two more questions? Yeah? Nice. Vimla, I see your thumbs up, and Mamta's thumbs up. Very nice. Okay, Nikhil, could you launch the poll, meaning of learning a language?
What does it mean to learn a language? And the second one is, for what purpose do schools generally teach a language?
Thank you. Okay, so let's see. What have we come up with? What does it mean to learn a language? Nobody clicked on A, yeah. That's not fair. To memorize names of objects around days of the week, nobody. To be able to express basic needs and wants, 25%. To communicate with each other using the language, 51%. And to create new knowledge using the language, 25%. Okay, very nice. Now let's look at your results in terms of what is the match between the first question and the second question. Because what it means to learn a language, that is what you would expect schools to teach for, right? So A was something in first question, A was something nobody ticked on. But I've written A only differently in question number 2. For what purpose do schools generally teach? To build competence of vocabulary and grammar. And just a minute. Yeah. So there are 17% people who think that. I'm glad most of you responded very honestly to these questions. To help students express their basic needs, 26%. To communicate with each other using the language, 25%. To help students create new knowledge, 32%. Now, that's an interesting transition that has happened in the two questions. In the first question, you said communicating with each other was more important, 51% people saying that. In the second question, you said the school should actually be helping students create new knowledge. But if you're not teaching for creating new knowledge, if you don't think the purpose of language is that, then how will school work on that? Yeah. So, some things for us to look at, some things that I think is just something to ponder upon. And I'm just going to close this. I have a couple of things to share with you, some very interesting stuff, some anecdotes which I hope you will find interesting. So, what is the meaning of learning a language? Um, I think if the best check I've realized is that, all of us keep saying, oh, to express our emotions and to express our ideas, that's the best thing. And that's what language is for. People keep saying that. But the real test of it is to look at what are we assessing in our exams. So if you look at an English or a Hindi or a Marathi or any language question paper, what are we assessing in that? We're assessing grammar. We're assessing recall of characters of the story, who said to him, reference to context, grammar. Those are the kinds of things that we are questioning or we're looking for. All of those things are connected to only the structure of the language, not the ability to create new knowledge, not the ability to ideate, not the ability to think in a language. So, if our focus is going to be structure, the students who come out of that learning will focus on the structure only. They won't focus on creating new knowledge. They won't focus on creating new ideas, on thinking independently. So, it's very important that when we're teaching in a class and when we're assessing in a class, we're basically showing students what we are valuing in a language. However, percentage of marks that you allocate for children sharing their opinions on things, for children openly debating things, that sends a message across to them how much their opinion matters, how much their research work matters. So, as teachers, as schools, can we look at building that as part of foundational literacy? As working with each child of my class, not focusing only on the structure. The structure they will pick up. And if you actually look at how do children pick up the structure of the mother tongue, they're just always talking at home, right? Always talking at home, talking with their parents, with their playmates, everyone. Nobody teaches them for the mother tongue. Nobody teaches them, these are the nouns, these are the verbs, this is that. Not required. They pick it up, they use it very well. When they have to express their emotions, when they have to express their ideas, when they have to talk about new games that they've created, they use it very well, right? Yeah. So I have a short story for you guys. I thought that might be interesting. So I was talking to my sister about this webinar, and she happened to share this story of Akbar and Birbal with me. So once there was a pandit who came to Akbar's court, and he said, I am so brilliant and I am so learned a man. I am so fluent in so many languages that none of your courtiers, none of your ministers will ever be able to guess what is my native language. And so Akbar said, we're very happy to welcome you. and we'd love to have you in our kingdom, but I must inform you that my ministers are very clever and they'll be able to figure it out. So he says, okay, try it. Take one day, figure it out and tell me. So they said, okay. So one of the ministers, very slyly, he asks him in Hindi, आप कहाँ से आए हो? So the Pandit replies in Hindi. He says, मैं बहुत दूर से आया हूँ. So he says, oh, he's very fluent in Hindi. Hindi must be his native language. And this Pandit says, no, Hindi is not my native language. Then another courtier tries something. He tries in Malayalam and he asks him, which is bigger, the sun or the moon in Malayalam? Okay. Now I don't remember that. So somebody else, if you know the Malayalam words for it, then you can give that. Otherwise, the question was this in Malayalam. And in Malayalam, this person, the Pandit replied, the sun is much bigger than the moon. Says, oh, his Malayalam is so good. His native language must be Malayalam. So he says, no, my native language is not Malayalam. So the ministers start giving up, and Akbar is very worried that, in my court, how can this happen? And, I'll be let down. So he says, okay, give me until tomorrow morning. And Birbal will find out and tell us. So the Pandit says, okay. So Pandit goes to the guest house and he sleeps over there. In the middle of the night, Birbal walks into the guest house and he takes a feather with him and tickles the Pandit's ear. So the Pandit turns around and sleeps to the other side. He's getting very disturbed, very agitated, who's troubling him in his sleep. Then Birbal goes and tickles him with the feather in the other ear. So now the Pandit is sort of scared. He's still in his sleep, he's scared. And he mutters in a language saying, please don't kill me, please don't kill me. Some language. Okay. And Birbal quietly walks out of there. And in the morning in the court, he says, Akbar, his native language is Telugu. He says, how did you figure out Telugu? So he says, because when somebody is stressed and somebody is emotionally very heightened or very angry, the language that they use is the language that is their native language. The emotion comes out in that language. So can we build the foundational literacy is that where you work with a child to that extent that the child is able to express his emotions, express deep thoughts in that language. Okay. So the point of this story and another anecdote coming to my mind was where my sister's kids, they've always just heard English being spoken at home and they don't live in India. So they don't have any exposure to Hindi. The only thing that this little one, her daughter, younger daughter, told me once, how do I know when mommy is really angry? When she starts speaking in Hindi, it means she's very angry and we have to run. So I think while I'm saying this, all of it in, in a mode of sort of, it's fun to hear it like this, but it's very critical for people to be able to understand a certain language, to be able to express in a language, the organization of one's own thoughts, the interconnectedness of the ideas, all of that comes together in that basic language that you're learning. And that's what you need to develop in children. That's what foundational literacy should be about. Now, that's about learning a language. The second part of language is using a language to learn. Okay. One was learning a language. The second is using a language to learn. Now, what do we mean by using a language to learn? See, each discipline that we have, whether it's science, whether it's maths, whether it's social sciences, each discipline has its own structure. It has its own way of how it is woven together. Maths is hierarchical, social sciences is empirical. To understand all of that, there is a different kind of terminology that is used. There is a different kind of mental structure that children need to build. Somewhere they have to identify cause and effect relationships. Somewhere they have to observe and clearly identify what is the inference from there. Somewhere they have to hold their inferences very lightly and say, okay, it could change according to another person. So all of that is part of using the language to learn. Okay. So using Hindi, English, mother tongue, whatever language, to learn what is the nature of that particular subject and then move from there. Yeah. So those are the two things that I had in mind. Yeah.
I think the story that you narrated was really nice. We could connect very well with it. And this also tells me, my children once, when they were looking into my wardrobe, they found a set of diaries. And they were surprised to see that I had written poetries all in Hindi. And they were like, Mama, you've been talking to us all the time in English, and how come you're writing in Hindi? So I used to tell them, I think I can express myself really well when I write in Hindi. So that answers my question, and my children are not here, but yes, they will understand now why Hindi, because it's my native language. That's nice. And I also, as a school head, Agnes, I found that, some parents get too very particular about using of grammar book. They'll come to school, if you have not put a grammar book on the list, they will eat away the lives of the teachers, कि आप लोगों ने grammar book क्यों नहीं लगाई? And many a times teachers themselves are not able to give a very convincing answer. But as per my understanding goes, I think language learning starts from listening. Because they listen to the mother, right from the womb, they're listening to that language. There's a special connect. And when they listen, they are able to speak. And that is why that time they don't need any foundation of any grammar. They're able to speak and express themselves very well. And because they speak, whatever they speak, they are even able to write. But actually, when you start writing, I think grammar comes in use then when you can actually cross-check your writing, whether you're grammatically correct or not. So if you really want to improve your language, I think it is then that the role of the grammar comes in. So I would like to pose my next question to Vishnu. Vishnu, I want you to throw some light on what common myths are there about language learning. Because I just spoke about grammar to you now. Parents are very insistent. So there are some other myths surrounding language learning. So could you throw some light on it? I can see a broad smile on Pooja's face also. So yes, I will like to pose these questions to both of you. So whoever would like to answer this.
Yeah, I like that. It's a very, Pooja, so, well, let me share tiny bit thing and then I'll open it for Pooja. So, what is the practice that we see around, and then we'll probably get to know what are the myths that, the myths are basically what? The beliefs which are not scientifically true or rational. That's what myth is about, okay? I mean, see, so you believe in something, but when you test it, when you put science to it, then you realize it is not right. It is incorrect. Therefore, you call it myth. Okay, so that's fundamentally one. For example, what Angie was saying earlier, that when you check language, what is it that you're checking? You're checking structure, you're checking grammar, okay. And when you really understand the purpose of language, when you begin to really inquire what is the really role of language in our lives, and you realize, oh, the role of language is not really to impress people, by saying some totally incongruent, incomprehensible, big jargons. That's not the role of language, okay? So, therefore, stop focusing so much on that. Focus on the meaning that you're communicating or the meaning that you're receiving. And that is the role of language. Because the language, I mean, fundamentally, what is human life? And I like to go back to that. That's fundamentally, what are we trying to do? We make sense of the world and we express that sense to others. Okay, that's communication. We make sense of the world by listening, by watching, etc., whatever. Now, when you speak, I'm making sense of it. Therefore, whatever you speak, I need to understand that. That is language. And after I have got it and I have thought myself, and what Agnes was saying a little while ago, that do we use language for creation, or do we use language only for, regurgitation, repetition of what I have heard? If I use language to create something, then you have to assess that, my creativity, and then say, okay, I have learned the language, I have not learned the language. But because we believe, and really wrongly, that the language is about picking up some, phrases and using it here and there. So children in the nursery, they are just told to memorize certain rhymes. Okay, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are, up above the world. So they don't understand anything, and I've seen it, and I've seen it across the country. Okay, I've seen this happening. And then what do? The parents say, "Koi visitor aa gaya, uncle auntie ko sunao, uncle auntie ko batao kya sikha hai." So the parents are in this great illusion that language is about impressing people. So this is just one example of the kind of myth that we carry about language. Okay, when you have understood something, you've got the meaning, then you will find the language. That is another truth, and we know about it. Okay, look at just some of the sages or saints in the country, and I particularly like, Kabir. He knew something, he understood something, and he spoke in the language that a lot of people understood. So you put grammar to Kabir's language, it will not stand. You'll probably, as an English teacher, you'll give him 0 in any language that you look at, okay? Is he speaking Maithili? No, 0. Bhojpuri? No. Hindi? 0. So he is speaking a language which is potent with meaning. So that is one important thing. So what is it, the myth that we have? That the language is about repeating phrases, that is. So there are 3 common myths which have really about the languages, multilingualism, or about learning second language, broadly second language, that has determined our national craze for English, or probably many other countries. Okay, all the non-native English-speaking countries, many of them. Okay, so what are these 3 myths? And I want to really bring that to your notice, and then we will see how they have really screwed up our meaning-making potential in children in schools. Okay, completely messed it up. Okay. I'm speaking English, but I'm not a native English speaker. I'm not even a native Hindi speaker, okay? But I learned Bhojpuri, I grew up with that, okay? But I learned Hindi well, okay? And I did it very well. Then I struggled for some time to learn English, but I used it, and when I used it and I understood things and I made use of it, my meaning, whatever today I think and write in English. It is true what Angie was saying a while back, that I still, when I have to write a poem, I still prefer to write it in Hindi, okay? Because that's the language I am most comfortable in terms of emotional thing. But when I have to write a professional, let's say I have to plan a training or a book, or conceptualize the flow of something, then I do it in English. So that's the language that I've mastered for that. Hindi, Bhojpuri did not come in the way of learning English. So here are the 3 myths, okay? I'm going to share this. This is a 3 myth that our country has been infested by, and many other countries in ASEAN countries, let's say. This research is from Australia, on the ASEAN countries. Okay. So what is the first myth? To learn a second language, you must start as early as possible. Now, can you see the expression of this myth everywhere? You see that? Look around. Everywhere, child goes there. No, English, because English is the language that fetches us money. Big job. Okay. Now, the child has absolutely nothing in about English in him. Okay. The maid, if you're a rich person, the maid speaks Hindi or some other native language, and somebody else speaks this, that. Nobody's, the dadi, dadas, nani, nanas, they speak other languages, but the child has to start with English. So that is the blinding myth we carry. The second myth, the best way to learn the second language is to make it medium of instruction. Now, this is the second myth. That's it. Okay. Make it a medium of instruction. Okay. And there are, yes, there are also some interesting pop researchers, popular ones, who will probably say, you want to teach a language, make it medium of instruction. And there's a problem there, okay? And the third language, which I have seen a plenty in our own classrooms, where the teacher actively discourages, sometimes punishingly discourages children to use their native language, because they think if the child is speaking that, child will not pick up English, and then the parents will come after you. Very interesting. Okay. The problem of this, okay, if you look at it, the whole nation has gone a little mad about, making English medium schools, teaching English right from the beginning, making medium of instruction. And because English is an aspirational language, English is a language that will give us money. Now, this X-webinar, webinar, whatever we call it, is not about towing the line of the parents or government or somebody else. We are, I believe, hardcore educators, and we would like to take the side of the rational thinking, which means the scientifically proven things, okay, what really works, okay, and not to soothe somebody else, okay, because the government. So we have politicians in our country who will say no, Hindi, but they will send their own children to English medium schools, okay, and that's a plenty. So we are not in that business. We are right now talking about what is scientifically or pedagogically right. That is what we're talking about. What will happen, how the schools will work, how you will go back and teach in your classes is something that is left to you. What we're talking about is really what science of language, what is pedagogy, what is that telling us about how learning happens. Here is one scholar, okay, who talked about this. So if you look at it, he is saying, this guy Allen, there seems to be no theoretical or empirical basis to necessitate or obligate the use of English in teaching mathematics or sciences or whatever, okay? But at the same time, there are clear and consistent advantage of using the student's first language. And we're talking about the learning stage, the beginning stage, where the student acquires the basic understanding of various concepts. Now, fundamentally, what I am saying is that the language is a tool or a vehicle for meaning making. And that is what should be supreme in our thinking. We should not compromise on that, because at the end of the day, you are what meaning you make out of your experiences. If you don't make it, you only memorize what others have given, you are like a photocopied human being. And that is a problem, at least I see that's a serious problem, okay? So what do we do then? So here are very simple 3 principles taken from theory, and we can discuss it, but I don't think Rajni is going to allow me to do that. Okay. So I have to really, I'm very scared of her, the only person probably. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to read it out and then Pooja will come in her. Here are the 3 principles of which we can take help from. And these are principles or theories based on researches. Okay. There's no joke. For those who are interested, the reference is given. There is some guy called, this is not the original Kilpatrick of project-based learning. This is a newer guy called Andy Kilpatrick. It is not saying don't teach children English, okay? It is saying, and that way NEP has been very clever, as far as possible. They also use the word as far as possible, okay? So delay the introduction of English until the child has literacy in L1. And until you have certain facilities to teach, okay? Now that's an important thing. The child's mental space, the world around, has to be matured in the child's mind, has to be made. And that is the best way, the best language to make that meaning, to understanding of the world around, immediate around, is the child's native language, the mother tongue. So allow that to happen first. When the child learns that, then those strategies, those tools, those connections, those conventions make it possible for the child to transfer that skill or strategies to learn a new language. As simple as that. Okay. When you have learned a cycle, you have also learned balancing, you have learned road sense, you have learned direction, you have learned certain rules. And then it becomes easier for you to graduate to another vehicle. Let's say it's a motorcycle or car. Okay. It doesn't happen that, no, I have not learned motorcycle. You have learned cycle, but in cycling, using cycling, you learned a whole lot of things about balance, direction, traffic, road rules. In the same way, child has learned while picking up the first native language, child has learned the use, the meaning, the purpose of a language. And that is the important part, okay? Communication, the child learns it, okay, this is what it is. So therefore, don't take that away, because that is what is going to be really, really determining child's approach to learning different languages. It's a very important one. Wherever possible and feasible, use the basic, the mother tongue as medium instruction. Now, obviously, don't get into teaching child law, patgamini, avak, dhavak, whatever. You know what the train ka Hindi kya hai? Okay. Now, the problem is that the train ki Hindi hai law, patgamini, avak, dhavak, vahan. Okay. That's called train in English. Now, don't get into those things. Okay. It's easier for child to learn train. Okay. Simple. Okay. In the same way, post office, there are a whole lot of things. Okay. Lal dibba khana ki jagah, simple post office, everybody understands. Okay. So the point I'm saying is that wherever feasible and possible, use the child's mother tongue, but don't make it complicated. Don't make it a matter of ideology. Okay. I was having an argument with Angie yesterday. Ideology. Because it's not about ideology. It is what is humanly easy to make sense. Don't unnecessarily complicate something. The language is for the language. Don't make it, life. The third principle is adopt multilingual benchmarks to measure proficiency. Okay. So I think this one is going to be more dealt with later. I think Pooja or one of them will be doing it. That we'll go into a little more in multilingual classes. So the basic thing is that multilingual classes, especially countries where there are so many languages being used, children come from varieties of backgrounds and so on, encourage that. That serves a lot. That serves the purpose of this. Now, Based on these three principles, okay, there are these three recommendations that this guy wrote, which is very simple, okay, proposals. Not very different, but written slightly differently for convenience, okay? Wherever possible, the mother tongue should be used as medium of instruction, otherwise a local language. Now, the guys, Kothari Commission onwards and so on, they were wise people. So when they talked about, and what Pooja initially said right in the beginning, that was the idea. You have your native language and you have the regional language, and then you have a national language or a foreign language, okay? Now, of course, things have become very complicated in the way they got implemented. And for that, it is not the scientists who need to be blamed, but our good old politicians and some messed up thinking of a lot of educators, okay? So it's a very important thing. So use that. English can happily be delayed until the whatever time. Now, this is going to be very difficult for people to accept, okay? Because there is a whole, it would probably be very difficult even for us because we'll have to do a lot of things. However, the fact remains that delay in learning does not necessarily mean you have left behind, okay? This is one of the serious problems that a lot of people have in our country and everywhere. Sheer ignorance, okay? बाहर गंदगी है तो आप घर में तो गंदगी नहीं डालना शुरू करते हो ना, because the child will get used to dirt when he goes out. So let's start sprinkling some dirt inside the house. You don't do that, okay? Just because later on something is required, don't necessarily, have first basic steps have to be understood. Now you have to mature, you have to build those basic steps to go further. So it's like, the test is done and crazy schools, okay, crazy. I get to hear, okay, because in CBSE, this kind of question papers are going to come. So let us start introducing this to write in grade 1. Now, how idiotic. By the time child graduates, goes after 8 years of schooling, child's thinking will be very different. You don't have to do it right away. All right. I mean, it's just very interesting that, okay, the child is going to have conflict in married life. So let us expose child to the conflict that we have as parents. Very good. See the impact on children. Terrible thinking. So there is a progression of learning, and we need to understand that. The progression is that you learn few things now that will paves the way, or the paves the way for something else to build. Now that has to be understood. In every subject, there is a progression of learning, okay? And we need to understand it. It's not this bit, this bit, this 1% sab padhao, 1% ऐसे थोड़ी होता है. That's not how brain develops. The goal of learners of English is multi-language. Now, here is an interesting thing that, oops.
You'll have to share screen.
So if you see, if you see, the goal of learners of English in multilingual or lingua franca. Now, what is lingua franca? When we have too many languages, there is one language which is common to all. So, for example, in our own very own dear countries, okay, the Tamilians are happy that lingua franca is considered as, so English is considered as lingua franca. Okay, English, everybody speaks. English is foreign to everybody, and it's also aspirational. So English becomes the lingua franca. And frankly speaking, in actuality, in North India all over, it would be Hindi as lingua franca, but not necessarily. A lot of people speak English, and I think that's a common, if there is one language which everybody across the country knows or doesn't know, that's English. So the goal of learners of English in multilingual and lingua franca setting should be multilingual performance and proficiency. The multilingual model, okay? Now, this is an important thing, that English does not have to be spoken just as one way, okay? The Scottish with the Scottish expressions, or I mean that there is going to be impact or influence of the native language in the way the child speaks, and that is perfectly fine, okay? That is absolute. There is no problem with that. So our convent conditioned brains think that English has to be spoken only in this particular way. Now there is a problem in that. Okay, I will probably express say things in the way that I have learned, and that doesn't take away from the fact that I know English. And there are many people who make a lot of spelling mistakes. That doesn't mean that they don't know the language. They just don't know the spelling of that particular one. So we need to be a little clearer about what is language, and there are going to be influences of native languages on whatever new language, second language that we are learning, and that is perfectly fine. That should be accepted. Yeah, I think I've taken too long.
Vishnu?
Pooja?
Yes, you have taken too long, and I don't know. Pooja, would you like to just take another minute if you want to add something?
Yeah, she has something to add, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, what I wanted to add, I will not add because I kind of tend to partially agree with what Vishnu said. And
You can disagree openly.
no, I'm an optimistic person, so I'll partially agree with you. And see, I'll give you a few examples, real examples, and it's always good to go back to our past and look at our parents and grandparents to understand how they learned English and how at present how they are delivering that language. For example, I'll take my father. He studied in a vernacular school. I understand that he studied in mother tongue, and over a course of his educational journey, he learned English. Currently, our fathers and our grandfathers are very good with English grammar. They are very good with their vocabulary, and they are extremely good with their spelling. Okay. Now look at the child of the present era. Most of the children who are speaking in the private public schools across the country, at least in A-class cities and B-class cities, they study English and Hindi together as they grow. They are basically growing as bilinguals. We'd like to understand that. Now, see what they become, what kind of adults they become. They speak very well. Their English is good. They can communicate in English, but they'll make spelling mistakes. They'll make grammatical errors. And their vocabulary is also not good. And their handwriting is atrocious. Now, if you see both the cases, what do we see? We see that our fathers, we are the sandwich generation, but our fathers and grandfathers, they studied English as a subject. And then slowly they transformed that subject ability to the medium of communication because their jobs, their work demanded them to do so, right? But our kids started off as English as a medium of, as a medium of communication, as a medium of learning. But as they grow, they are not that well versed in the finesse of that language. But yes, when it comes to speaking words like dude, bro, they are very good with it. So therefore, language competence is different for different people. And the third case, which I'd like to bring home today, is it's very interesting. And it's a concrete example of people around me. So I am from Delhi, and I happen to come to a state of Kerala, which is bordering Tamil Nadu. So the people around me are mostly Tamil-speaking people. So here is a case of a family, which is not me, but another family which migrated from north to Kerala, but their domestic staff, and there's a child, a 5-year-old child, he is growing up speaking fluent Tamil. So it's very interesting when a Sikh boy who grows up in this culture in Kerala is speaking fluent Tamil to the extent when he speaks to his sister. Now today he's 20 and the sister is 15. They both talk to each other in Tamil. Can you imagine Sikh boy and girl, brother, sister talking to each other in Tamil? What does it show? It actually defies all our research and all our, whatever theory we have learned, that L1 is important to be acquired to a certain extent, to reach a certain level, and then start learning L2. That is what the theory around us has been propagating. But here, this myth that children actually soak up language like a sponge is so visibly true. So I tried to understand what is it that a person A becomes extremely good bilingual, but a person B does not become extremely good bilingual. The only difference which I found was the quality of environment around him. So if the child is studying in a so-called English medium school, where the teachers themselves are speaking broken English or incorrect English, and broken Hindi and incorrect Hindi, obviously that child will neither learn good L1 nor good L2.
True.
Right. And thousands of schools around us to prove this.
Yeah.
Vis-a-vis, if we have an extremely rich environment of L1 around the child, and then extremely enriching environment of L2 around the child, through which the child, not only in the classroom, but in the playground, in the laboratory, in the games field, at home, during excursions, learns L2 as a way of life. Understanding and appreciating the culture of L2, these are the factors which will make him a proficient bilingual.
So, Pooja, I think what you're trying to say is listening plays a very important role.
Listening, understanding,
Yes.
comprehending. Yeah.
So, if the language spoken is, the language that we really want to learn, if it's spoken well, children also get absorbed in that language. So, just taking this a little further, I was, while Vishnu was talking about Australia research, Carol Benson, there's another research that I had come across. And according to that research, this is from Boston-based universities, 3 Boston-based universities. It showed that the best age to start a new language, like he said, English can be delayed. So this research says that, yes, you can delay not only English, any second language that you want the child to learn is maximum till the age of 10. If you want to build in grammatical fluency of a native speaker. So by the age of 10, they say you must introduce so that the grammatical fluency of the native speaker also the child is able to absorb. After the age of 18, speaking a new language is possible. He says language can be learned at any age. But after the age of 18, yes, the child can continue to learn a new language. But learning the rules of language like a native speaker gets difficult. And the pronunciation also may not be the way the original language has. So this is the research which says that, you can delay, yes, but delay till say maximum age of 10 so that the grammatical rules are mastered by the child. And I think that makes a lot of sense to me. This brings me to Nikhil. Can we have the next poll over here? How to develop thinking in language? I think that's very, very important, thinking in a particular language. Nikhil, can we have the poll? Yes, thank you so much. What will help the child most to develop her ability to think and ideate in language X? Yes, so what we see is 53% of the people agree that X-rich environment and active encouragement from teacher to use X for communication. As Pooja was saying, a language rich environment definitely helps the children. So Agnes, this brings me to the next question. What do you think are the necessary conditions for children to learn a language? Can you throw some light on it?
Yeah. So actually, Pooja's response and this poll have sort of just brought it exactly to the point where we need to move now. So I just thought while we were talking about this webinar, I had this idea that, why not have the teachers talk about what they're doing in their classrooms? So I have a couple of teachers here with me whose classrooms I've observed in the last year and during the online trainings in the pandemic times. And they're doing brilliant work. So there are these two teachers whose classes I had observed and I wanted them to come and share. They're from Kids Kingdom Public School, Maharashtra. And I think it is amazing. I would like you to. So I had earlier planned a different sequence, but I'm going to follow a completely different one now, looking at how this has gone. So I would want Dhanashri, are you there? Are you with us here? Dhanashri, we'll start with Barathi. So I'm really glad you guys could make it. And just for everyone to know, I think these girls are still in school because I asked them to share this material and they decided to stay back in school only to share with us. Dhanashri will do the Marathi example. So everyone, she's going to do a story and let's see how we follow through. This was one story that she was, when we had the online training, she did this story in Marathi online. And I'm not a Marathi speaker. I have had no exposure, only very rarely some people who I know who speak Marathi, but no background knowledge. And she
May
did this
I
story completely in Marathi. Yeah, let's start.
माझा नमस्कार सर्वांना. मी धनश्री पाटील, किड्स किंगडम पब्लिक स्कूल नांदेड तर्फे आज मी तुमच्यासाठी घेऊन आली एक नवीन स्टोरी. ही स्टोरी कदाचित तुम्ही ऐकली असेल, पण आज ह्यामध्ये थोडंसं वेगळं आहे. ते तर तुम्हाला ऐकायचंय माझ्यात. तर तुम्ही तयार आहात ना ही स्टोरी ऐकायला? चला तर मग पाहूया ही स्टोरी काय आहे. ठीक आहे. माझ्याकडे काव 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 हा कावळा आहे. हा आहे कावळा. आता हा कावळा तर तुम्ही सर्वांनी पाहिलाच असेल, हो की नाही? तर एकदा काय होतं माहिती का, हा कावळा असा उडत असतो. हा कावळा असा सगळीकडे असा उडत असतो आणि उडून उडून त्याला खूप तहान लागते. आणि तहान लागल्यावर त्याला खूप तहान लागते आणि त्याला पाणी प्यायचं असतं. आणि तो असा सगळीकडे पाण्याच्या शोधामध्ये जातो. सगळीकडे तो असा फिरत असतो आणि सगळीकडे तो असा फिरत असतो आणि त्यानंतर तो एक माठ बघतो. त्या माठावर तो असा बसतो आणि पाहतो की आतमध्ये पाणी आहे का. पाणी तर असतं आतमध्ये, पण ही जी त्याची चोच आहे ना, ही तिथपर्यंत जातच नसते. नाही नाही नाही. मग आता मी काय करू? मग हा कावळा विचार करतो, माझी चोच तर तिथपर्यंत नाही जात आहे आणि मला पाणी देखील पिता येत नाहीये. मग मी काय करू बरं? मग हा कावळा पुन्हा असा उडतो, उडून जातो आणि त्यानंतर तिथे त्याला एक मुलगा दिसतो आणि त्या मुलाला तो पाहतो आणि विचार करतो, अरे वा, हा मुलगा काय करतोय? हा मुलगा काय करतोय? या शहाळ्यातून शहाळ्याचं पाणी पितोय आणि ते पाणी स्ट्रॉनी पितोय. स्ट्रॉनी तो पाणी पितोय. आता कावळा काय विचार करतो माहितीये? कावळ्याला एक आयडिया सुचते. आणि मुलांनो, तुम्ही जे तुमचं कार्टून बघत असता मोटू पतलू, त्या मोटू पतलू मध्ये कोणाला सारख्या आयडिया येत असतात? अगदी बरोबर, त्या पतलूला खूप आयडिया येत असतात की नाही, तशीच त्या कावळ्याला आयडिया आली आणि तो काय म्हणतो, आता हा जर स्ट्रॉ मला भेटला तर मी देखील पाणी पिऊ शकतो. म्हणून तो पुन्हा उडतो आणि त्याला असा एक स्ट्रॉ भेटतो आणि तो स्ट्रॉ तो आपल्या असा चोचीत पकडतो आणि माठाकडे येतो. आणि माठाजवळ आल्यानंतर गुट 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 असं पाणी पितो आणि छान असा उडून जातो आणि त्याची तहान पण भागून जाते. आहे की नाही हुशार कावळा? किती हुशार आहे ना. आणि त्यांनी कसं डोकं लावलं, बरोबर आहे की नाही. आवडली तुम्हाला सर्वांना ही गोष्ट. मग चतुर कावळा, या गोष्टीचं नाव आहे चतुर कावळा.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you
Yes.
so much, Dhanashri. Thank you so
Very,
much.
very well
Okay.
expressed. Beautiful expressions on the face, Dhanashri.
थँक्यू सो
Enjoyed
मच.
it thoroughly. Really enjoyed it.
Okay, now on the chat box, everyone, I want to hear how many of you understood the story. Somebody's written खूप चांगली Marathi story. Okay, very nice. Understood. One person said understood. So how many people understood very clearly? Just put your comment there. Understood whole story. I understood. Yeah. Somehow I understood, but not all. Perfectly fine. Okay. Good, even though I don't know the language. Very nice. Since we know the story, I could understand. Okay. Beautifully expressed. Understood very well. Words were unfamiliar, but I enjoyed. Great expressions. Very nice. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay. So, what was the point of sharing this as an example? So, for me, when I saw Dhanashri doing this, and I've always been a propagator and, promoter of this, that we don't learn a language by translation. And when I saw Dhanashri doing this, it was like magic. Absolutely. She is not translating, okay? She's presented a whole different language to you, a different story. She's got props, she's got materials, she's got her actions, and she did not need to translate a single word. Okay. Some connectors must be there which we didn't understand because it was different language and the connectors could not be presented through actions. But we got what the story was. We got how each sequence was moving. How this crow came up with this idea कि मैं straw से पी लूंगा. And not something we imagined earlier. Kids will connect with. And she connected some cartoon also that children watch with it, Motu Patlu and all of that. So, and not a single translating terminology used over here. Everything demonstrated through actions, through visuals, made it very rich for sharing. So, meaning making is something that can happen with a lot of powerful visuals, with just the teacher's actions. So, I'm forgetting that word, Dhanashri, that you used. Pyas lagne ke liye. She just did this. Okay, and that, huh?
तहान लागली. त्याला खूप
Tahan, tahan lagli. Now she was saying that word. Never heard it in my life. But the moment she did this, I was like, okay, pyas lag rahi hai. Something connected to the throat, right? So it's possible to do that and beautifully done. So meaning making in language classrooms, very easy to achieve. Okay. Similarly, now I want to go to another example with Varsha, another school from another teacher from Kids Kingdom Public School, sharing how they've taught Hindi to the pre-primary preparatory class. Varsha, are you there?
Now, hello everyone. Good evening to all. And I am very glad to be a part of this session hosted by Propel Curriculum. Myself, Varsha Soni from Kids Kingdom Public School, Nanded. So, as we all know that pre-primary teachers is mother teacher. So, we teach all the subject. But today I want to share my experience about teaching Hindi. जैसे कि आप सभी जानते हैं, हिंदी में आमतौर पर वर्णमाला अनुक्रम से दी जाती है. लेकिन प्रोपेल का जो करिकुलम है वह क्लस्टर के देता है. तो इन्हीं क्लस्टर के जो अक्षर है उनका हम उपयोग करके ज्यादा से ज्यादा शब्द बनाते हैं. और यह शब्द बनाने के बाद मैंने इस तरह की बुक्स तैयार की है. क्या आप देख सकते हैं? इस तरह की बुक्स मैंने छोटी पुस्तिका बनाई है और इन पुस्तिका का उपयोग मैं अपनी हिंदी की तासिका में, हिंदी के पीरियड में करती हूँ। शुरुआत में जब ये छोटी पुस्तिका मैंने बच्चों को पढ़ने के लिए दी, उन्हें थोड़ी परेशानी हुई, यानी थोड़ा समय लगा उन्हें पढ़ने के लिए, लेकिन बाद में वह धीरे धीरे आसानी से पढ़ने लगे और उन्हें पढ़ाई के साथ साथ यह एक खेल का भी साधन हो गया कि जैसे हमारा क्लास वर्क कंप्लीट हो गया है, हमें ये किताब जाकर टेबल पर जो रखी हुई है एक एक करके बारी बारी से लेना है और पढ़ना है। उन्हें ये खेलने का साधन हो गया, वह अपने आप काम में बिजी हो गए और मुझे भी मेरी क्लास को अनुशासित करने के लिए ज्यादा मेहनत नहीं करनी पड़ी। इस तरह की बुक्स मैंने सब बनाई है। यहाँ पर इस छोटी पुस्तिका में शब्द के साथ मैंने चित्रों को दिया है। शब्द के साथ चित्रों को देने की वजह से उनकी शब्द की जो पकड़ होती है, अक्षरों की पकड़, शब्द जो बने हुए, उस पर उनकी पकड़ मजबूत होने लगी और वह धीरे धीरे हिंदी विषय में रुचि लेने लगे कि नहीं, हम पढ़ भी सकते हैं, क्योंकि उन्हें ऐसे लगने कि जो हम बोलते हैं, जो हम सुनते हैं, वह हम पढ़ भी सक रहे हैं और लिख भी सक रहे हैं। तो इस तरह से उनकी हिंदी में विषय में उनकी जो पकड़ है मजबूत होने लगी। यहाँ पर मैंने अक्षरों को भी बताया है और उनकी मात्राओं को भी हाईलाइट किया हुआ है। उनकी मात्राओं को भी मैंने हाईलाइट किया हुआ है, ये देखिए आप। तो बच्चे यह जैसे ही अपना क्लास वर्क कंप्लीट करते थे और यह किताब लेकर बारी बारी से बैठ जाते थे। पहले तो समय ज्यादा लगता था, फिर वो जैसे उनकी किताब पढ़ना पूरी हो जाती थी, वह अपने दूसरे फ्रेंड्स के साथ वह शेयर करते थे। ये सब बातें जब करने लगे तो उन्हें हिंदी पढ़ना भी आने लगा, शब्द समझने लगे, मात्राएं समझने लगी, शब्द और मात्रा की उनकी पकड़ मजबूत होने लगी। इसी तरह से मुझे माता पिताओं से भी उनके फीडबैक मिलने लगा। फीडबैक यह था कि बच्चे जब मम्मी पापा के साथ बाहर घूमने निकलते तो वह दुकान पर लिखे हुए जो शब्द होते हैं, दुकान का नाम, वह पढ़ने की कोशिश करने लगे। विज्ञापन, बैनर अच्छे से पढ़ने लगे और यह देखकर उनके माता पिता काफी खुश हुए। और जब उन्होंने मुझे भी काफी खुशी हुई कि मैंने जिस उद्देश्य से यह पुस्तिका, छोटी पुस्तिका बनाई थी, वह मेरा उद्देश्य सफल हुआ और मुझे भी काफी अच्छा लगने लगा। और मैं फिर से काफी सारे लेटर्स के साथ में इन्हें बनाने लगी, यानी हर लेटर्स के लिए मैंने यह किताब बनाई है और बच्चों को ज्यादा से ज्यादा वर्ड्स पढ़ने के लिए दिए हैं ताकि शब्द और चित्र के साथ में उनकी पकड़ मजबूत हो।
Thank you so much, Varsha. I would like to share over here on this platform. So picture dictionary का idea हम लोगों ने अपने curriculum में, we have given it in our curriculum explicitly. We have told teachers how to do it. But telling you frankly that when I walked into Varsha's class that day, I was amazed. Because this was one teacher who had taken the idea and executed it in her class. And you could see these tiny tots, okay? They were like, 4-5-year-olds. They're just going up to the teacher's table, picking up whatever book they want, and they'll go and sit on their seat. They'll flip the pages quickly if they can, slowly if it's taking them time. They'll go and return the book over there, back on the teacher's table, pick up another one. So they're engaged in themselves. They're busy looking at the print-rich experience that this teacher has provided for them. And also to share with you one thing more. So children are introduced to 6 words like this for each letter from the teacher's side, okay, from the curriculum side. And those 6 words have that particular letter or sound at different places on the word. But children come up with more words. So to share that, I just want Dhanashri to share the word wall now. And then once she's done, then we'll close that. Dhanashri, you can probably share it here only on this screen only. You're right.
Yeah,
there, right?
ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, so while she is setting it right, I just want to highlight, if you all have heard of this theory, multiple intelligence. So it talks about 8 intelligences, and one of the intelligence is linguistic intelligence. So we all talk about, how to enrich the language. But I wish to point out over here to all the teachers, all the friends out here, that scientifically, again, it is proved that when children ask for meanings, or when they, show their interest in reading, and the teacher does not take enough interest in the child, so somewhere we are rejecting the child, and somewhere the child's interest in the language diminishes because of the response from the teacher. The research also says that, such an attitude of the teacher pushes the children towards abusive language, because they have the intelligence for language, and because we are rejecting, so they get attracted to the negative part of the language, and they learn all the abusive part of the language. See what an important role the teacher plays. It's in our hands, to push the child towards language, and our attitude towards the child will actually decide his interest in the language. So I would request all of you to look at this part, that whenever you see a child who's too interested, find ways of keeping him motivated. Do not in any way push him away.
As we all know, we are mother teacher, teach all subjects. While focusing on language, we know that the child gets to learn a language through listening, because it develops language structures in his or her mind. So hence I made small booklets, picture dictionary of these clusters, which the children could hold in their hand.
Super cute.
One minute.
No, it's okay. It's okay, Dhanashri. Carry on. Thank
Yes,
you for
Anji.
being here. Yeah. So the examples that both of them were sharing. So we actually looked at 3 languages: Marathi, which is the mother tongue over there, where they're coming from. Then Hindi, which is the second language for them. English, which is the third language for them. The idea of sharing all of these 3 was that while they are introduced, what we can at best do from our sides is that we give a lot of print rich exposure to children. We give them materials that they can handle on their own. So one of the concerns that I think Pooja was raising was that if we have people who don't themselves know those languages, then how will they teach? So therefore, the exposure is something that we can plan from our sides. So we can plan materials, we can plan audio visuals, we can plan those kinds of things which provide that kind of rich exposure to children to deal with the current situation that we have. In the necessary conditions for children to learn a language, I thought these 3 things were most critical. One being,
Agnes,
Hanji.
can I add one point? I'm sorry to intervene,
Please do. Please do. Please do.
When I was learning in British Council about how to learn a language, one very important formula, it's like a formula for every language teacher to imbibe, is MPF. Whenever you are introducing a language learning is not a linear process, which means that you don't learn alphabets, then you don't learn words, and then you don't learn sentences. It's more of a, it is more of a holistic experience, right? We all know when we talk about mother tongue acquisition, we all know about it. But MPF is important when you're teaching a language. M stands for meaning, P for pronunciation, and F for form. What we for is, like, if you're teaching a word, for example, fluency, a word like fluency, if you're teaching, you first talk to the students about the meaning of that word. The second would be how the word would look like. What they just showed was a picture dictionary, and they started with the meaning, right? And then they started with the pronunciation, and then the third important thing to highlight is form. So MPF, if we keep in mind, we'll be able to follow. So never, in our schools when we were kids, we had a notebook called word meaning notebook, in which we had a word and the meaning had to be learned. And believe you me, we were supposed to learn 50 words per day. Every day, the teacher would give us 50 words, learn. But that's not how we learn vocab, right? We learn vocab when we use it. It's the usage use those words in your own sentences, then you will learn that word. So we need to keep that aspect in our minds whenever, as language teachers, whenever we are teaching in a classroom. Thank you.
So no word to be
Absolutely.
taught in
Thank you so
isolation.
much.
No word to be taught in isolation.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think beautifully put, meaning, pronunciation, and form, and to follow it through for everything that we're teaching. Thank you so much for adding that.
Yes. So, Pooja, since you are there, I also would like you to highlight the problem we would face if we switch from mother tongue to second language. Like, we are planning to move from mother tongue to the second language in a couple of years. So, what do you see as problems over there?
So why should we? Why should we switch from mother tongue to second language? So obviously there are some reasons why we do that, right, Rajni ma'am?
Yeah.
Let's first try to establish what are the advantages of learning in mother tongue. We need to understand. So if L2 is so important, that why not start with L2? I mean, what are the plus points of having L1? The first and most important reason is that fluency and literacy in the mother tongue will lay a cognitive and linguistic foundation in the child for learning additional languages. So it is like the DNA is being formed when you are teaching the child mother tongue. In the child's cognitive ability, a kind of framework, DNA framework is being formed. And based on that DNA framework, the child will learn the second or the third language or even more language. This is what the research says, that when the child receives formal instructions, and here it's important to learn, understand formal instructions in their first language throughout the primary school, and then gradually transition takes place to academic learning in the second language. Then children learn the second language quicker. And if they continue to have opportunities to develop their first language skills in the secondary school also, then they will emerge as fully bilingual, or for that matter, multilingual learners. So the idea is not to rush into teaching of L1, L2 together. First, let L1 foundations be formed and then go over to L2, and it will happen. We have to be patient but L1, the way you teach L1, the quality of the teaching environment, the quality of learning material, all these things would be important in the school. However, if children are forced to switch abruptly or transition too early from learning in their mother tongue to schooling in a second language, then even their first language acquisition will be weak. So this is important. Not only is this happening, even their self-confidence as learners will go down, and their interest in learning, because since you know that if language is poor, if your language abilities are poor, the child lacks the motivation to learn any other subject, because he feels, he just zeroes in the classroom. He doesn't understand. So ultimately he says, forget it. Let me just sleep off in the class. So he goes in a sleep mode because he's not understanding what the teacher is teaching. Therefore, we need to understand that transitioning from mother tongue to L2 is appropriate when this is the research, worldwide research, that 6 to 8 years of schooling is necessary to have in mother tongue, and then you transition to the second language. And research has also informed us that, transition approaches tend to introduce the majority language. L2 obviously would be a majority language as the primary medium for instruction, but only in the primary years. And if that happens, if it is in early years, then the research shows that much less favorable outcomes of language acquisition are seen, not only in the second language, but also in the mother tongue. So the crucial point here to understand is that give them 6 years of mother tongue and then start with the second language.
Thank you, Pooja. This brings me to one example. Like I remember last year, we had a child joining us in class 3, if I'm not, in class 3. And when he entered my office, I wished him good morning, and he didn't give any response to it. He just sat down, and he was waiting for his uncle to join in. And after some time, when his uncle joined in and he wished me good morning, this boy got up and said Ram Ram Tau, and touched his uncle's feet also. So I understood that this language, good morning, was actually not known to him. Not that he lacked etiquette at all. It is just that he knew how to say Ram Ram Tau. And I observed this child for a year, and what a damage we did to this child, because he did not understand the language that was happening in the classroom. It turned out to be a totally aggressive boy, a boy who the teacher would not want to be in the class, because one, he could not understand the language, what was happening around, and a lot of children around him used to ridicule him a lot. So see how learning got hampered because we did not take care of the language that he knew. We tried to educate him in a language which was not known to him. So that's something that every school will have to keep in mind when they are shifting from mother tongue to language 2. I think that's something very important. From this, I think I would like to go to this next poll. Nikhil, if you could have benefits of mother tongue as medium.
I think
And I
Vishnu
can see
wants
Vishnu.
Vishnu wants to
You have
say
half a
something.
minute, Vishnu. Half a minute.
Half a
Is
minute.
there a way to raise hand? I can't figure out.
Yeah, there was. And Preeti was Preeti had raised her hand. I'm sorry, Preeti, I did not give you a chance. But yes, after Vishnu finishes, if you can just pitch in.
I just connecting to this, I think it's very important for teachers to be extremely mindful of the native language the child comes with, okay, and extremely respectful. I think this, and a lot of us, and this is not just the English versus the rest. It could also be Hindi versus the native, Hindi
Yes.
versus Bhojpuri, Hindi versus some other, Mathili, Avadhi, Vrinda, whatever. So it's extremely important, and this is a point that what Rajni is saying, and that example really is very important. It's extremely painful, okay, that the children feel that what they come with, which is their identity, is negated, is contemptuous teachers. So I've seen teachers being contemptuous of, अच्छा इंग्लिश मीडियम स्कूल में टाई पहन के ताऊ बोल रहे हो राम राम ताऊ I mean, it's such a shoddy thinking that how is Tao and Ram Ram anywhere inferior to any? I mean, it's so the child, his whole identity is negated. So वो क्या करेगा? He'll become aggressive. He'll become obstinate. That is what we giving. Thank you. Yeah, Preeti.
Vishnu, this is nothing. Haven't we come across schools where we are fined if we speak in Hindi?
Yeah.
I've worked in a
Yes.
school where if a child was spotted speaking in Hindi, that child was supposed to stand on stage in the form of punishment because there was a rule of language in that school. So he had to stand in punishment on the stage all through the assembly.
Yeah. So what they were doing actually by doing all this is pushing the child away from the language and not actually putting him into the language.
So they were
Language
trying to
learning.
encourage the use of English, but
Yeah, the wrong way.
else was also happening,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Nikhil, I would
Preeti.
like to go to the next.
Preeti. You forgot Preeti.
Preeti wrote on the chat box that she's found her answer. Thank you, Preeti. Yeah. So I'll go to Nikhil now. Nikhil, can we have the next poll? Benefits of mother tongue as medium. Yeah. So I think the session has really
Wow.
helped.
It's
Yeah.
almost unanimous, huh? The
Yes.
response.
So our session has really helped. So they understand that yes, it will facilitate effortless communication and make it easier for children to quickly acquire knowledge. Thank you so much. Yeah, so that brings us to the next question then, and it is open to Pooja and Angie. And looking at the watch, it's already 5:41. We are already late. So a quick response on in schools where the medium of instruction is other than English. What should be done to make the transition smooth when the school decides to move to English as a medium? Though it is almost answered in many ways by Agnes and Pooja, still a minute if you could just conclude it.
so should I take it up, Agnes?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So, there is no consensus, there's no methodology for this transition, set methodology or a pattern. Few, few things which we shouldn't do is important for us to understand. One thing is that the current evidence suggests very strongly that the academic benefits of mother tongue are to be achieved for a minimum of 6 years. And then we should move on to the second language. That is one important thing to consider. And we should not be in a hurry to initiate the child into the second language. The benefit of mother tongue instruction are well established in literature around us, but there are three stages which I need to put across. One is the early exit stage, which is within 1 to 4 years, you exit from L1 to L2. The second stage is the late exit stage, that is between 6 years. After 6 years, you exit to L2. And the third is the very late exit stage that takes about 8 years. Now, results from the early exit policy show that is within 4 years when children exit, low learning outcomes. And this model is often fraught with implementational challenges also. So, what are those challenges? The political will. We don't want to introduce, like in Tamil Nadu, they will not introduce Hindi come what may, even if it is advantageous that if the child is traveling for commerce or trade to north, the child won't be able to. So there is the political will is missing, right? So the sudden transition, if the child exits early, does not allow the learners to develop, and we've established that adequate cognitive, linguistic, and academic skills in their mother tongues prior to switching. Hence, the effective transfer of cognitive and academic competencies from mother tongue to the second language is possible only when the learners have acquired adequate competencies in their mother tongue. That is the key thing to understand. And the weight of current evidence strongly suggests that MT1 has to be achieved to a certain level, and then you switch to MT2. And then there is policy incoherence and political will is missing. Then there are like negative perceptions about local language. People feel that, like, we often hear ye to local hai. So that is what? That is a person who speaks the local language, and it is looked down upon. And of course, then in our schools, the educational infrastructure is missing, the learning materials are missing, the teachers are not trained enough to teach. So these are the things which hamper the smooth transition from L1 to L2. Or in other words, if you provide the teachers with adequate learning material, adequate training, I think we will be successful in this kind of transition. Yeah.
Thank you, Pooja.
So
And
can
Yes,
I
Agnes.
just take half a minute, I think,
Yes,
to
Agnes.
add a couple of things. So I think one of the things that we were talking about in the previous question was this whole issue of giving respect to the child's native language and the child's cultural identity being recognized. So how does that happen? Does that happen just by, we say everyone's identity has to be recognized or everyone's language is important? It doesn't happen like that, right? So as teachers, we have to have actively policies or practices in place where you bring in the child's native language into the classroom. So for example, this whole thing, this one example of good morning that you shared, Rajni ji, if the teacher went ahead and said that, in my house, when we wake up in the morning, we greet each other with good morning and we give a hug. And how do you do it at your place? So one day everyone comes and shares that. Another day everyone comes and shares what is the favorite or the most cooked meal in the house. And they bring that and they share that. So little practices which would hardly take like 5 minutes in a classroom, but will truly impact the child's self-worth. and this whole thing of, acceptance of the child's identity, that just happens with those 5 minutes of, a strategy coming into place.
True.
So yeah, one was that. Another thing that I thought, when we look at second language, and in second language, when we're talking about, so all of our disciplines come into place, right, in the higher grades, and it's, even in the first language, is difficult to understand, because from a narrative form of writing, you've suddenly moved to a very different form of writing in all other subjects. So advanced organizers are something that are used actively to help children. And you have advanced organizers of different kinds for different subjects. So there'll be a cause and effect organizer for for a social science class. There'll be a hypothesis question organizer for a science class, and different, so fishbone organizers. You'll be able to find them easily on the internet. But the idea is to make that available to the child.
True.
So yeah, that was just my two bit to this.
Yeah. And Agnes, if you remember, my driver came from Tamil Nadu. And, often he used to tell me, ki, ma'am, itni gandi policy banai that I could not learn Hindi. It has actually made me, it has limited me to a particular state. I cannot move out and, do new things because of the lack of the language. So I think this is something that we need to keep in mind, that how we restrict children when we are not exposing them to a very, a national language. I think that is something very important. This brings me now to the last
Actually, ma'am,
question.
I'm sorry to intervene here. See, the thing is, the three language formula said that the northern states should learn a southern language and southern states should learn a northern language. So,
Yeah, so
not impose only Hindi in Tamil Nadu. Let us also impose a southern language in
The
northern.
southern language.
And it's a fair game.
yeah, so what people have done is they've made Sanskrit as one language which goes across the nation, that we'll follow Sanskrit, or they go in for one foreign language. But what I was trying to say here is that, we should not limit ourselves, because language opens doors. And by keeping, restricting it, I think we close doors. That is what I was trying to
opens
highlight.
Hearts also, no? Opens.
Definitely.
It opens hearts. So, yeah.
Definitely. So that brings me now to the last question. What is the role of education in bridging the gap between the home and the school? What is the significance of this home school connect, and how do you see it happening? Pooja, if you could answer that for us.
So education, we let us take language as a means of education. Okay. So language, as we all know, is a vehicle. Vishnu pointed this out earlier, is a vehicle for transfer of idea, for transfer of culture, opinions from parents to teachers and teachers to parents. So it's that vehicle. And schools where parents do not understand the language of instructions which is happening in the school, slowly we have observed, they become detached. They become disinterested in their kids' homework, in their projects. They just don't understand what's going on in the school. So ultimately they give up. Then they hire tutors. हम तो नहीं पढ़ा सकते, आप आके शायद पढ़ा लीजिए. And then the tutors do another, total, they confuse the child even more. Then the parents, who are an important stakeholder, they will shy away from school, and hence they will not be able to do their role as an important stakeholder of the school. So this is what happens when there is a disconnect in that language, which will not happen if that language happens to be the home language, the language spoken at home. Coming to the next point is, how can the community help? So if you remember in class 12th, there is the first chapter of English, which is called the last lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, the Germans have taken over certain districts of France, and they have now established the rule that in these districts, only German will be taught as the language of instruction. French will not be taught. So when this French teacher and the entire school reads that rule on the notice board, they are all stunned to learn that from tomorrow, they will not be learning French, their native language. They will just be the children, the entire, children studying in the school will now be learning only German. That's the moment of realization about the importance of their mother tongue. And then that teacher, in his last lesson, in which he has invited the community members, the elders in the community who are sitting at the back of the class along with the kids, he says that I am sorry that I neglected my mother tongue. I didn't realize how important it was to me and to the community and to the society and to our city or to our district. I just didn't understand the value. Today we know that if we forget French, we are going to put that key to the prison down the drain. So language is that medium, your native language is that medium of freedom, right? And if you remember, Vive la France, he says, long live French. So that is the feeling, that is the emotion which is evoked when we talk about our mother tongue. We have a responsibility, right? Because it's the tool, it's the vehicle through which our culture moves from one generation to the other. So to forget that language, we are forgetting, we are just sowing the seeds to forget our culture. So what should we do? We should have volunteer program, which is there in Western countries. They invite the elders, retired people to the school to speak. We can also invite our panchayat people, our chaudhries, come to the school and speak. I mean, it's a treat to listen to the local dialect also at times. So, that social, that English is a language of upward mobility, true. But at the same time, if we learn to appreciate the local language, the dialects, I think the finest example I see is Amitabh Bachchan. The way he speaks his English and the way he speaks his Hindi and the language which is spoken in Allahabad is amazing. It doesn't diminish his aura or his image one bit because he speaks with so much of pride, right? So what I'm trying to say is that we should have a volunteer program in place and we should invite people from the community to come and speak. And good speakers can speak and the students should be exposed to the local dialects.
Yes. So I think that's a very strong message coming from Pooja. Let's be rooted to our mother tongue. That's very, very important. Let's not forget it. Let's build closeness that this language brings. So we should not forget our mother tongue. Yes, that's a message that I have taken it by heart. I felt that yes, mother tongue is really important. Thank you so much, Pooja. And I think my takeaway from today's session, if I have to conclude, I think second language should be taught in early childhood. Yes, as we all agreed, as becoming bilingual is often an unconscious event, as natural as learning to walk or ride a bicycle. So scientific surveys say that pronunciation and intonation can be acquired easier during childhood due to neuromuscular mechanism, which are active till the age of 12. This is science now for the language, that if we have to achieve L1, L2, that there is an age limit as per science. After puberty, they are afraid of making mistakes and being ridiculed. So I hope this session has pushed all of you to think further. I wish to thank all of you for being a part of this webinar. I thank my speakers, Pooja, Agnes, and Vishnu for your valuable time and for all the valid points that you all brought out in this webinar. Thank you so much. It's been really great. And if someone would like to add from the audience, you can unmute and you can, talk about it. Really touched. And I think from today, I will make a very conscious effort of talking in Hindi, my mother tongue.
Okay, Sandhya Srinivas has raised hand.
Yes, Sandhya.
Yeah, it was a wonderful session. I am Sandhya Srinivas from Chitrakuta School from Bangalore. It was really nice to know that we can use our mother tongue when we are teaching children. It really helps them to understand. Recently in my online class, I used one English word. So they were confused. many hands were raised. They asked me, ma'am, what does this mean? So then I told them in Kannada. So they really felt happy and they understood what is the meaning. That's really nice when we teach them in our mother tongue. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful.
Thank you for your feedback. Really great. So we have our next webinar coming up on the 19th. And Nikhil, I'll request you to place the slide, please. Once again, a big thank you to all of you. Our next webinar is going to be on project-based learning. It's going to be a 3-hour session, and it is a paid session. We're not keeping it free this time. So it's a paid session. A lot of hard work has gone in. I would request all of you to register. It's really going to add a lot of value to your own personal learning. The fee is very nominal. It's just ₹200. It's not much. So do not disappoint us. We feel highly motivated by your feedback. So we look forward to all of you joining us on 19th December for project-based learning. Thank you so much once again, Agnes, Pooja, and Vishnu. And Nikhil, thank you so much, Pradeep, for all the work that you'll do behind the curtains. Thank you so much.